Welcome back to the Tourism Ireland industry event. Fáilte roimh arás, ba ceartún plán gnó, plán fógraíocht agus margadíocht a chorináthe gur an bhliain seo cuain, but instead we'll be having a córa an agalav. We're going to have 5 key industry players joining me very shortly. We'll be looking at some new data and we'll be looking at some new perspectives, and we will be addressing the big question: what needs to happen for 2021 to happen for Irish tourism? But first of all, we're going to be joined by Simon Calder. He's the man that has his finger on the pulse of European travel. He's based in London. He is the senior travel editor of the English Independent, and he's been a great friend of Ireland and a great friend of Tourism Ireland down the years. His moniker is the man who pays his own way. And Simon, way back in 1973, when he first came to Ireland, he was hitchhiking around Ireland. I'm not sure if that counts as paying your own way, Simon, does it?
Well, look, since then I have been back many times and I've spent a great deal of money very happily, and of course appreciated the warmth and welcome of Ireland and the many wonders. And actually 2020 has been, of course, a terrible year, and I absolutely salute all the extraordinary tourism providers who have kept going, kept the lights on, as Niall was saying, kept the fires burning, kept hope, and kept planning for the great recovery, which I am absolutely convinced will be coming your way. I must just say that I've engaged with Tourism Ireland, in particular, Niall, all the way through since March, and frankly, I have had more conversations with Niall about what is happening with tourism, particularly from Great Britain to Ireland, than I have had with all other tourism organisations. Tourism Ireland have been completely focused on what do we need to get across to people. So hats off, I must say. But I've also, in this terrible year, I think maybe set a record for the number of holidays in Ireland. I've had 3. I have. So I was over in the Ards Peninsula in June, just as Northern Ireland was opening up, actually ahead of the rest of the UK in terms of camping and self-catering accommodation. I was over again in July and in October. I've presented not 1 but 2 outside broadcasts from the Ards Peninsula, one in June, one in October for ITV This Morning with Eamon and Ruth, and I've done some filming around Strangford Lough for BBC One, and that will be going out in January next year. So it has been possible opportunistically to travel to Ireland, and I've been doing all I can to help people understand how the rules will affect them, and of course to travel at all times in a safe and respectful way. And things can only get better, as this talk is entitled, in 2021. Yes, it's going to be tough, but this decade, trust me, is going to be absolutely magnificent for Tourism Ireland. There are so many opportunities, and I think when we reconvene in 2030, we look back, of course, we will see this time as just a shocking, devastating, harming, well, besides, of course, the dreadful human toll, the economic damage that is causing, but Ireland is well placed to come out of this crisis in good shape. I will be looking mostly at the Great Britain market. Clearly, that accounts for just over 40% of visitor numbers to the island of Ireland, and about a quarter of value. But honestly, this is going to be the market which is going to be most important in the years to come. Let's just think about who is going to be travelling, when they are going to be travelling, what they are going to be wanting. It seems to me that, yes, as Niall was saying, there is a huge pent-up demand to travel, but it comes with conditions. Many people, and this is tourists from Great Britain and of course from continental Europe, from North America, have actually had really bad experiences. They might have got caught on the wrong side of somebody else's lockdown. They may still be waiting for a refund on a trip that they were supposed to take in April or May that never happened. They are distrustful of what might happen if they venture too far away. And I see that applying particularly in the United States. I don't think that we are going to see an early return, not least because, of course, Ireland, since mid-March, has been on the list of countries regarded as unsafe for sending anybody, tourists, family members, to the US. And it will take the new President Biden to overcome that issue. But from the point of view of Great Britain, Ireland looks by far the most tempting prospect, I suggest. And there will also be a certain amount of tourism from Great Britain to near continents, so to France, to Belgium, to the Netherlands, places we used to go to. But of course, everything is shrouded in Brexit. And I think, yes, there are significant downsides for Ireland, but I think, and when Owen and I were speaking in Killarney just over a year ago, specifically about Brexit, I said that I felt it would be neutral to positive for Ireland. I still think that. I'm actually now, given that we know much more about the manner that the United Kingdom has chosen to leave the EU, I'm actually now just purely positive with a few reservations. So, most important thing, as far as I'm aware, is the common travel area. And I am doing everything I can as confusion unravels across the entire number of 66 million people in Britain. Many of them want to go abroad. Many of them simply do not have a clue about what the rules will be. And I'm afraid that from the 1st of January onwards, we will see people turned away from airports because they haven't complied fully with the new passport rules that are coming in. It's, of course, as we were hearing, uncertainty over the European Health Insurance Card. One downside, actually, that I think, and I've been looking at the latest pronouncements coming out of Brussels, I think pets will be one of the drawbacks for Ireland, because there is now going to be a pet barrier in the Irish Sea between GB and Northern Ireland, and indeed the Republic as well. And that, of course, will diminish the attractiveness. But I think there's going to be things which outweigh that. Accessibility. Now, we've talked a lot about connectivity and the way it's hugely diminished, and in common with Dublin, all the airports in Great Britain are reporting very, very low passenger numbers. However, Ireland has two immense benefits, and they are called Aer Lingus, part of the extraordinarily solid IAG group, and of course now positioning to become the transatlantic carrier of choice for people in Great Britain, and also Ryanair. And I will take a sip from my Ryanair reusable mug here. There's worse things to be than the country of origin of Europe's biggest, strongest budget airline. Honestly, I have watched the progress of Ryanair from the one aircraft operation based in Waterford back in 1986, to the fact that it has now just ordered another 75 Boeing 737 MAX aircraft. And this is absolutely typical of the airline that has done so much to power connectivity, not just between Ireland and GB, not just between Ireland and continental Europe, but just connecting everybody, and a real force for good. And while we will have to wait some years, and I'm worried here particularly about Northern Ireland and the collapse of Flybe, which saw so much connectivity in and out of George Best Belfast City being lost. The fact that Ryanair is going to see this terrible crisis as an opportunity for expansion, I think brings all sorts of benefits. It is an extraordinarily well-run airline. Whatever you think of it, whatever you regard as its relative merits compared with Aer Lingus, it is extraordinarily successful, and I would say a huge tribute to the men and women who have kept it going. Effectively, actually, for several months when Niall and I were talking about the future of tourism, and I was saying, "Oh, come on, it's going to be all right by August, isn't it?" He'd say, "Hang on, not so fast." Ryanair was running effectively a public transport service at its cost across the Irish Sea, keeping Ireland connected with GB. So connectivity, I don't think is going to be a problem. And I also think this is going to be an opportunity for the ferry companies. All the research I have seen says that people are more comfortable being in their own cars, being on ferries, than they are with other forms of international transport. Now, whether that will prevail once we get a large number of people vaccinated, it remains to be seen. And that takes us on to the vaccine and when it's a good moment to start building again, to start promoting. And, well, there is going to be what I would call an arms race breaking out. Certainly in the UK on Boxing Day, 26th of December, you are going to see all the countries which have had effectively their tourism industries collapsed, all coming out and saying, right, you've got to come here. You'll see the big holiday companies saying, right, we want to get your business, thank you very much, and we will be offering fantastic deals. I don't think there are going to be that many takers. People are so uncertain. They want that they want to know that their trip is going to go ahead, and therefore I think things are becoming much shorter term. There is general agreement among all the people I've spoken to across the industry that by April 2021, hopefully most people will, the most vulnerable people will have been vaccinated, at which stage every country will be able to just pause and think, okay, what can we do to unlock our tourism potential? And I think at that stage, there will be a blossoming of travel. It's not going to be anything like 2019, but within a few years it will be. And therefore, I think the St. Patrick's Day timing is absolutely perfect because, frankly, I'm not planning more than 2 weeks ahead. And if I think on St. Patrick's Day, yeah, I'd love an April break in Ireland, then I will be going ahead and booking it. So that looks as though the timing is on Ireland's side. Let's look also at a couple of aspects of travel which are really having problems and what they mean. Well, for Ireland, the fact that there is going to be almost no skiing season is rather irrelevant. And yet that is going to divert some people away from their usual trip to the Alps to somewhere else. And if we are seeing, perhaps in March, some opening up, that is going to be not very valuable, it's going to be significant. And the other area of travel, which I think has probably suffered more than any other, is cruising. Now, of course, they have massive problems. On a typical cruise ship, as you will know, you have crew from 100 different nations. They've all got to get together. You've got passengers from many different countries as well. The typical cruise will call at maybe 5 or 6 countries in the course of a week. That is going to be incredibly difficult to arrange when so many countries have their own restrictions, and this actually speaks particularly to the issues of why Ireland is looking so precious to us British travellers, and that's simply because while of course there have been quarantine restrictions in place, there is no sign that there is going to be any testing requirement at the moment of the kind that makes travel so arduous elsewhere. So therefore, you name a country, I will give you a different testing regime. It's absolutely awful. And of course, while quarantine has been applied by the United Kingdom to every country in the world, it hasn't applied to Ireland. Those are really important messages to get through. I am going to be doing absolutely everything I can to put those messages through, to make it clear that whatever Brexit brings, whatever downturn, that Ireland is going to continue to be easily accessible, just as it was in 1973, when I think only Eoghan and I had been born. But of course, I discovered that year just what I had in store. There's still many marvellous parts of the island of Ireland I have not yet visited. I'm so excited about the Game of Thrones studio tour, and that is absolutely high on my list of great openings across Europe. It is going to be tough, everybody. The key, I believe, is honestly just to keep the faith, to know that people love Ireland, both those of us who've been there many, many times and those who want to be reassured that this is a welcoming place where people will always look after the visitor and hold them close. Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy the rest of the day. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you. And look, all I can say is that as soon as I can, beg may ash, I'll be back. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Simon Calder. Little did we know when we both spoke at separate platforms at Margaret Cahill's event, Let's Talk Tourism in Killarney, how the world would turn upside down.